Hi there, welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to learn about Microsoft Azure Network Watcher. A Network Watcher is a tool that will help you to monitor and diagnose and view even metrics, and on top of metrics you can even set some kind of alert so that you get that alert. So it's most useful for diagnosing any kind of network related problems, and you can read the logs and you can set those logs for your entire virtual network. So virtual network specific any kind of troubleshooting that can be easily done from the Azure Network Watcher. And this Network Watcher is designed to monitor and repair any kind of network health or any of the infrastructure as a service specific products, but not for it doesn't shoot for the PaaS or any of the web analytic specific. So it's purely dedicatedly works for infrastructure as a service products only, especially like virtual machines or virtual networks or application gateways or even load balancers. So any of these components you have any issues, you can go ahead and check the traffic flow, all that from the Azure Virtual Network Watcher. With the help of Network Watcher, you can do the monitoring as we said earlier. Let's say you have a web server or a VM that is communicating with your database server, and you might be configured some kind of custom routes to your database server or between your web server to database, and that might causing some issues. If you want to find out that, you can go ahead and configure your monitoring. That would really help us to monitoring based on the FAQs, FQDN based, or maybe URN, that is a resource ID identifier based, or IP address based connections. All that can be done. Even you can go for the connection monitoring capability. So it just monitors the communication at the regular interval and informs you about the reachability and latency and network topology changes between your VM and any of your endpoints, as I said, like maybe from your web server to as an endpoint as your database server. So it just gives you alert, it gives you the monitoring capabilities complete. And if your endpoint becomes as unreachable or not able to connect, so it will help you the connection troubleshooting. It informs you the reason for any of the potential reasons, like maybe a DNS name resolution problem or CPU or memory or firewall within the operating system of that specific VM, or maybe hop types, like from this network to the next hop communication. Also you can check out even the custom route information and any of the security rules that you are configured from NSGs or maybe a subnet layer. So all that information you can check out directly from the uh, Azure Network Watcher, and you can diagnose the network traffic filter problems. You can do almost all kind of diagnostics specific to the network, as specific to routing problems, network filtering, traffic filtering, and also outbound connection for a specific VM. You can capture even the virtual machines specific packets, and on top of it you can, as I said, go for metrics and configure those metrics so that you get that CPU percentage and all that metrics. And also you can have the virtual network, a complete topology can be viewed, and even that can be even downloaded if you wanted. I think it's time for us to jump into the Azure portal to create Azure Network Watcher agents and the configuration part. If you see here, I have two virtual machines that are already running state, and these machines I need to install an agent which is becomes as an extension. Okay, that extension should be installed on top of these virtual machines. That's called Azure Network Watcher extension. So let's go to the virtual machine and go back to the extensions here within this blade and click on add new extension. And if you see here, there's no extensions currently, so click add, and if you just scroll down, there's something called Network Watcher agent for Windows. So all you have to do is simply create this. That's gonna install on that machine. So I'm gonna do this installation for the two virtual machines. So that has to be done. Once I submitted that, it's gonna add in a minute or so. And let me go back to other virtual machine also add. So currently I have done for the VM02. I'm going to install for VM01 also the similar steps I'm going to follow, like click on add and then add the network watcher agent for Windows and create and click OK. That would actually submit. So in a minute or so in the two machines it's going to install the agent. I also wanted to just to show you here about my networking. If you see here, my virtual network which I'm talking about is DNS demo VNet 1 is the VNet which we are talking about, where these two virtual machines exist. So I'm gonna configure this specific network watcher to associate with this specific subnet. That's where I'm gonna apply some kind of rules and I'm gonna work on that. So let's go to the Azure and search for the network watcher. So you have this one. So just click on that. Now what we'll do is we will try to run with all these options that are available within the network watcher. So the first one is the overview, where it's going to talk about network watcher is enabled in what all the regions. You see here, if the status, if you look at here the status, it's partially enabled. That means not for all. So if I just expand a little bit, I can see for my subscription, for West US it's not enabled. Let's say if I want to enable, all I have to do is I have to just click on these little three dots and enable network watcher. That would enable the configuration network watcher. And then if at all you have maybe any of the VNets which are located maybe in West US, so now they are able to monitor by using all these options. Or you can go for network diagnostic tools, or you can use a matrix, and you can even integrate with your log analytics and other logs information. All that can be applied on top of your virtual networks or your VNets in other way. So this is what we talked. And now if I just go back to my virtual machine, and you see here the deployment, the agent also it's successful. Before we jump into it, you see here if I just go to the overview of this virtual machine and see, this is in East US. So in this region, that's a uh, network watcher. I'm just gonna search for East US. So East US is already enabled. So that means it's good that we are good to configure. If at all in your case you might have maybe like West India or South India, so you just have to have a look on this configuration and try to enable, so that this will be enabled for network watcher capabilities for your VNets. So that's the first step. And also we have the agents has been successfully installed. Let's say if agent is installed already, that's the extension. If I just click on extension, I should be able to see here as the Azure Network Watcher extension. All we have to do is that's it. The extension is available and it is the provisional status is successful. So as a next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to back to this Azure portal and I'll continue with other options. So starting with monitoring tab, within this monitoring you have topology. As we talked, the topology is how your network VNet is connected with the different virtual resources. Let's say you have a VM1, VM2, and some other applications also configure. If they are completely associated with your VNet, you can view it. So let's say this is my subscription and my resource ID, that's a resource group, is my DNS demo. And here I do have here one VNet, so I'll just click on that VNet. And you see here, if I just scroll down a little bit, I can view a nice diagram about how this is there. Let's say this is my VNet. It's a default is my subnet actually. So within this subnet, I have two different virtual network, that's a network cards. Okay, these are the two network cards. That means these network cards are associated definitely with your VM. So two VMs and the two NSGs and the two IP addresses also assigned for these network cards. So this is how you can view. Let's see if I just go back to other resource, maybe I'll just show you one of my other production. Maybe if I just go here, I should be able to see here for different networks. So you see here, it's a big one where I have my link server and also my mail server and different network calls, different NSGs, and the different my subnets. All that has been configured here. Um, this is where it will be useful for you in terms of having a complete an idea about the topology. So we talked about the topology. Now let's go to the connection monitor. So connection monitor will help you to configure and track your connections, whether they are a reachable state and do you have any latency, and also network topology changes if anything is happened. In the overview section we talked about, let's say, one web server and the SQL server, and somebody has done some changes or introduced maybe new NSG for the SQL server. Maybe in that situation you might lose the connectivity. So that kind of things can be easily troubleshooted here. So let's do in other way. Let's say if I just wanted to monitor connection monitor, click on add, and I can give here some name. I'm gonna give this name letterpoint. Let's have a look on it. So here the virtual machine which I'm going to talk. So in this case I wanted to talk about DNS demo VM01, and this is my VM which is my destination. I'm going to select in the below. So here in the destination I'm going to select the VM1. So VM2, I'm sorry, because we have selected as a VM1 as a top source. So from the source VM2, source destination VM is VM02. Now you want to monitor some kind of maybe a port. Let's say I want to monitor maybe 445, or maybe port 1433, there's a SQL server, or maybe port 443, or such ports can be easily monitored. Like I'm gonna monitor 3389 just for the testing purpose. And when you click on advanced settings, you also have the similar port configuration, anywhere from 1 to 65,000 plus ports can be given here. And the probing intervals, like default is a 60 seconds. It's going to check whether this port is enabled or not. So once you are finished with this, you can give a meaningful name based on the settings that you have configured. So I'm going to give here my connection monitor for monitoring VM01 to VM02 RGP port monitoring, and simply click on add. So that's going to add a connection monitor. That might take a minute or so, but you will have some kind of data whether this specific VMs have any issues between the communication. So you'll know that if something goes wrong, you can always fix it and it gets the alert for you. This is the best example drawing what we have done so far. Let's say you have here the sources and destination, and also you can do some kind of configuration also can be tested, which is currently into the preview mode. But when we see preview mode, it actually unified end-to-end connection monitoring, which can be done with the Azure Network Watcher. Anytime soon it can release as the general availability or GA, where you can go ahead and configure even for your on-premises network also, like end-to-end configuration for your networks. That can be done by creating and testing even the configuration part. But let's jump into the NPM, Network Performance Monitor, in short NPM we also call this. NPM is recently added within the Microsoft Azure, where this NPM or Network Performance Monitor can be straightforward, can be integrated with your log analytics services, so that you get the more information, more diagnostic information can be viewed, and you have the more capabilities what's happening with as a one product from the log analytics services. So you can click here, add NPM, and then configure your log analytics workspace, and then you will be getting all the log information directly forwarded to your log analytics services. So let's go back to the connection monitor. By this time it could have already done some kind of a pooling, and just click on that, and let's see if I just go down. I should be able to see here, because we configure for every 60 seconds as an interval. So far it has already completed 4-5 minutes, so we should be able to see some kind of information. Let's say here it's reachable, the status is reachable, and the agent also have a version information, because agent extension is compulsory, and without that you cannot monitor this. As that's why we, as a first step, we install that extension so that we can actually monitor or create our connection monitors in the network watcher. If I go a little bit down, I can see here in a grid view what happened, the status, whether the status is proper or not. And if I just scroll left side, because I just zoomed this text so that you can view it. If I just on 100, it will be very smaller text for you. And you can see here the RTT shows in the milliseconds is one stands 1 millisecond, so that's good. That's best ping status. And if I just click on topology view, the view completely changes, and it will be a downloadable format very similar to what we have here. If I just click here, I'm just scrolling so that I can get in a zoom wise, like what's happening from here to here, the status is fine, and all that information I can get it. And if I just go up, grid back again, grid view will be available. So this is how it's gonna look for you. Now it's time for us to go to other network diagnostic tools to learn. So the first one is within the network diagnostic tool, which is very helpful in terms of the troubleshooting, because here what we are talking about earlier was just the monitoring, so whether it is available or not. But here you are gonna actually even know that what's happening. Let's say IP flow. If you take IP flow as the one option, what happens is this will help you out what's happening, whether the specific security group or maybe NSG or maybe some protocols, whether they are allowed or denied. All that kind of traffic specific things can be flow, basically the IP flow completely we can check without logging to those virtual machines. Let's say I have selected here my subscription, and I have a resource group called here DNS demo, and I have a virtual machine. I've just taken a random virtual machine, and let's say I wanted to know a port number, TCP port, with the direction as incoming, so that's the inbound. Let's say I want to know whether the port as 80 is allowed or not. Remote IP address, let's say my IP address, if I give here, let's say here my public IP, I've just taken my public IP and giving here on a remote port as 80. Let's see what happens. So definitely the inbound should be blocked because we are not enabling anything. And what is that rule which is either allowing or blocking also, you can easily find out, because definitely NSG has not created any of them, and the rule which is talking about is deny all inbound. But if we look at the outbound, that's the outbound from this virtual machine to the port, maybe like 60,000 some port, or the outbound from the virtual machine. You are sitting on a virtual machine and you're trying to uh, go out, so definitely it will be allowed. So let's say you are trying to use the one other remote IP address. Let's see what happens. So it should check and giving us the access, because the outbound is completely allowed, and these are coming from the network security group based rules. So that this is actually coming directly from the network security group rules. So definitely the IP flow will be very helpful to understand what rule is getting blocked and what is causing the problem. Now the next topic is within this network diagnostic tools, or next hop, very similar to your trace, where you have your virtual machine here and you want to find out what's happening with the source and the destination between. If you find some kind of any hop point for your packet, you can easily find out. Let's say I have here my I'm just selecting here. If I just go to the next hop, I can select my subscription and my resource group. In this case, it's a DNS demo, and my virtual machine and my network interface. And now my source IP is this, and I wanted to reach the destination. Let's say Google IP or Google DNS. What happens? It's gonna actually give you the complete hop information So the next hop here is the internet, which is coming which is coming from the system route, which is a default route of the route table which has created by Microsoft Azure Cloud. So you can easily find out. Similarly, if I just go to another configuration, let's say I want to reach maybe 4, what would happen? Let's see, it's just the 1 point between 4 and 5, and let's see. And here the next hop is it is actually using the type is the virtual network, because within the VNet this 4 and 5 or exist, so it's again a system route. So you can use the next hop to find out how the traffic is actually going with the route commands. And coming back to the effective security rules, this is another one where it's going to talk about what rules are applying at the network security level or network security group level, and what specific inbound or outbound rules are effective. That's why it might be blocking that specific packet. So let's take that. Let's say I want to talk about DNS demo. I want to select one of the virtual machine, in this case maybe VM01, and it's going to actually show you the complete information of just increase the font here. So you see here it's the effective rules. You can easily find out what is the effective associated NSG in this case, and the interface network card, which is going out the traffic, and the inbound rules, or all these are the inbound rules that is applied. For example, RDP protocol is allowed within my NSG. Like here, it's allowing the NSG specific rule, which is coming from the specific NSG as the RDP protocol 3389 allow. And similarly for the outbound, everything is getting allowed. So this is effective for this virtual machine with the help of this network security group, and it is associated with this network card. And this is again for this specific virtual machine. This is how you're going to troubleshoot. And also you have an options at the you can directly even click on the NSG to get more information by going directly to there and configure the required rules if at all you want to allow or deny any specific things. So that's about the effective security rules. And now we can talk about the VPN troubleshooting. Let's say you have a VPN device you have already within your subscription, and you want to troubleshoot that, and all that specific information can be stored in a storage account for further level of troubleshooting. Let's say if I just go for my subscription and my resource group, I can select the VPN device. So in my case, I have one VPN device or VPN gateway device, and then I can select my storage account. In this case, I can just go for my data room diagnostic account, and I can click here a specific container. In this case, it should be a VPN, and simply click on create. That's going to create actually in the back end for a container, and that's where it's gonna choose the container specific information. So I'll just click select my container which I just created, and if I click on start troubleshooting, it's gonna run all the diagnostic in the back end, and it gives you more information about the VPN troubleshooting steps and what happened and the whatever the users, why the users are not able to connect. All that information you would be getting out. All that information will be on your storage account which you have selected. So in my case, in this case, it's unhealthy example here, and the specific information is gets logged into the diagnostics. Say, let's say I want to go to my storage account which I have selected and go back to the blob container, and the VPN sets a container name, and you see here the number of times we run it. So it's going to come here, and this is the latest one. So I'll just take this, and this has been downloading. I'm trying to download as a zip file which is already run the diagnostic information, and that information I should be able to get here. Click here to download. So it's going to download, and later point I can check what's happening within this specific one, what's the errors, all that I can find here with some kind of text notepad. So CPU 0, current available memory is available, all that information is currently logged in. So this some other way it's useful. In other way, The reason being this is unhealthy. I have already removed some of the configuration, so that's why it's actually showing unhealthy. And let's jump into the packet capture phase, where you're gonna look at capturing some kind of a packet between your source and destination of the networks. If you try to capture any of the packet, it's going to actually store into the storage account or in a file, or both the places can be capture the data. So as a first step, I can choose my subscription and my resources, and I can select my virtual machine here, and this could be a test capture example. And simply there should not be any space, so just give the test capture, and I'm going to store into the storage account. If so, I can select my storage account, in this case DNS specific one, and the minimum bytes per packet, and also the maximum byte per session you can configure. These are the default values. If you want to add additional, you can add it, and you can also go for further level of filtering from what IP address you wanted to, and what ports to be explicitly to be captured, the protocol specific packets, and remote IP address, remote port numbers, all that, and you can save, so that it's going to save that configuration, and you can view that packet data, captured data with your network packet captured data can be viewed from a different editor tools or the viewer tools, so that you can easily go for further level of troubleshooting. So let's go to the connection troubleshooting within the network diagnostic. It's going to talk about any of the source and destination. If it is not able to reach, it's going to actually check for communication purpose. Let's say I have here my subscription as this, and my resource group as DNS demo, and my virtual machine specific or application gateway specific. So in this case, the virtual machine is your one, and I want a resource group. Destination is again, I can choose DNS demo, and this time virtual machine 2. So it's gonna actually check for the TCP IP ICMP protocol based, or you can specify the port IP, for example 443, or whatever the port, for example 1433. So this is another type of verification from your connection monitor, but it's gonna show you here the actual details. Let's say if I just click on check, it's gonna gives the more information about the connection, whether the source to destination on that specific port, the connection is open or not, and it has validated. Now if you see here, it's unreachable because on these virtual machine VM02 firewall is open, and it is not configured to allow the port as 1433, so that's why it stopped. Whereas if you just go with the ICMP, it's gonna work. If I just run the check where we enable the ICMP protocol to be allowed, so this way you can come to know that instead of you log in there and do the troubleshoot from the VM to one source VM to the destination, you can actually do it directly from here, and you can troubleshoot, and you know that you know what's happening, and you can fix those errors. So let's jump into the metrics. So within the metrics, it's going to actually tell you about the metrics that are enabled in a different regions. And let's see if my region is here, like North Europe, or whether it is enabled or not, and the users quota also you can find out. Let's see, you have a limit of subscriptions. Per subscription, you have a few of the network watchers only can be enabled. Let's say packet capture sessions can be at 10,000, and the network watcher can be per one per region. You cannot have more than that. So these are some of the limitations. You can check out the documentation on this specific limitations, not just the uh, network watcher limitations. This page also talks about other limitations for within the Microsoft Azure subscription and services, limit quotas, and other all that information. So in our case, we did, since we enabled here ECUS, so it says that hey, you have one of one as already enabled, so you don't have any additional option for network watchers to be enabled in ECUS. But whereas you can go for other regions, let's say West, let's say South India, you didn't enable for network security group specific, so you have some limitations. That's what it's about, the quota for the metrics. And NSG, network security group flow, how it's gonna work. This is all about NSG specific logs for the traffic flow of the English and egress IP traffic, which is flowed between your network security groups. That information will be logged here, and you can have the information also by checking it here, and you can enable the flow log so that it's gonna actually capture, and it will be available there. And also you can forward this entire traffic information to the log analytics services also. And for that, you can simply select your storage account where you want to store all these log flows, so that later point, maybe for the auditing purpose, or maybe for your regulatory purpose, or for the troubleshooting purpose, you can use the NSG flows. And diagnostic logs are very similar as any other logs, but these are comes from your networking components like your network card or network security groups, where you have those uh, resources. Simply enable for that specific card any of the network diagnostic settings, and that would actually capture all the logs into the storage account. So these things we can talk even in the monitoring section also, but it's very simple. You just go and select the required network card or maybe NSG and click on add diagnostic, and simply select what type of metrics you want to collect and where you want to send. You want to send for log analytics services, or maybe archiving to a storage account, and later point for regulatory purpose it can be used, or you can even stream to your event hub services. So these are the network watcher specific settings that are available. I hope this entire lecture is useful for you. Thank you for watching this. I'll try to catch you in the next lecture. Please give me a feedback on my course by writing a review. Thank you.